You are now listening to the Minority Trailblazer Podcast. Season 2, new intro, let the story begin.
One time for the lovers, 2 times for the ladies, 3 times for the brothers, 4 times for the babies. Do you love her? 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 1 time for the lovers, 2 times for the ladies, 3 times for the brothers, 4 times for the babies. Do you love her? 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 Brown skin, love her brown skin, love her brown. Brown skin, love her brown skin, love her brown. She my brown skin, love her brown skin, love her brown. She my brown skin, love her brown skin. Hold me down.
Welcome to the Minority Trailblazer Podcast, and I'm your host, Greg E. Hill, the Culture Change Agent. Y'all already know, man, I'm pumped up, excited when I tell you this podcast is going to be one of the best episodes that we have ever delivered. I'm telling you, ever delivered. So it's crazy. Also, I ain't gonna lie, it's one of the longest podcasts I've ever recorded in Minority Trailblazer history. But I tell you though, this man's journey in what he's been able to accomplish, where he comes from, the stuff that he shares, and tips about living, tips about wealth, tips about all this other stuff that he lives by, not just blowing smoke. In these real stories, man, I guarantee each and every person that's listening to my voice right now can relate to it. So I'm excited about this episode. And it's episode 39. Can y'all believe that? We're 38 episodes in. Majority of podcasts don't last past 7 episodes, and we've been able to deliver 38 episodes already, and the future just so bright, man. I'd like to thank each and every one of y'all for leaving a review last week, too. We are well over 100 reviews. We got people all over the world leaving reviews, and that helped us get back into the top 150 podcasts in our category. And that's all thanks to you. Like, seriously, all thanks to you. Your continued support, your continued engagement. I see you on Twitter reaching out at Greg E. Hill. I enjoy this podcast. This means this. It means that. That means something to me. Because when I'm recording, sometimes I'm in the studio. I'm in my room by myself. I don't know who's engaging, who's really impacted, who's listening. But then when I have y'all reach out on LinkedIn, when I have y'all reach out on Instagram, when I have y'all reach out on Twitter, man, it really means the world to me. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. And for those that haven't had the chance to leave a review yet, I beg you, please leave us a 5-star review. I would appreciate it. It does so much for us. So before we get into the episode, I just want to say a couple things, man, about our guest, and then we're going to introduce him. This is new because our guest today, he is the host of the Daily Spark podcast and the founder of the Daily Spark entrepreneurship community, which is a fast-growing online community dedicated to empowerment, education, and support of entrepreneurs. But besides that, before he even started all that, the guy graduated from Princeton University, as well as got his MBA from Wharton, has experiences working for Microsoft and IBM, and check this is where it really gets interesting. Dude has created multiple million-plus download applications for iPhone, for games, and if you add up all his downloads in the stores, over 10 million. The same guy has rejected a 7-figure proposal to buy his company, his app development company, rejected it. Boom. The dude at one point was making $2,000 to $5,000 per day in ad revenue, and he's just a guy that now he's in the emoji app business. He's doing a lot of different things. He has a crazy burgeoning community in the Daily Spark podcast where he interviews people that have really changed the culture in the tech space and all other spaces, and a burgeoning Facebook community with over 1,000 entrepreneurs sharing tips, sharing ideas, sharing all this other stuff. So this episode is going to be phenomenal. We're going to talk about before the app design. We're going to talk about what his experience at Princeton and Wharton, like why did he even get an MBA, all the times he was rejected when he was trying to become a consultant. Like I'm telling you, like 6 years ago, dude, first of all, he graduated from Princeton, didn't even have a job. Didn't even have a job coming from Ivy League school. He interviewed for all these consulting companies, got rejected from majority of them. And now it's just being a trailblazer in the tech. I ain't gonna lie, he's a writer for Huffington Post too. Been featured on Black Enterprise, TechCrunch, and he is going the next wave of Nigerian change agents in tech space and personal development space. And I'm just glad that we bumped into each other. His wife is the beautiful founder of the Side Hustle Pro podcast, so of my African American females or ladies, and my man too. Check that podcast out. And this guy is about to add a lot of value, tell some funny stories, and it's about to be a long journey that I guarantee you will enjoy. So without further ado, I would like to introduce my boy, my dog, my brother, Muoyo Okome, to the Minority Trailblazer podcast. Welcome to the show.
Yo, Greg, what's going on, man? I feel like Michael Jordan.
Hey, man, I'm looking at the stats. I mean, the stats show for itself, man. I mean, I know you're a very humble guy, but I will say I'm glad, and I'm glad to have the opportunity to bring you on the show, bring your wealth of experience and knowledge on the show, and it's kicking and keep it real, and let's change the culture, all right?
I'm happy to be here, man. Thank you for having me.
No doubt. And most importantly, I'm happy because I wrote about it in a blog post this weekend. When I started into this blogging, this podcasting space, I said, I wanted to be real, I wanted to be transparent, but I also wanted to connect with other people of color that were in these different spaces. And I realized over the first year or so, that's one thing I haven't been living up to. I really haven't been connecting and sharing and exposing that many fellow podcasters, that many people that's in my lane. So me being able to have you on the show, you have a podcast, you have your own community. Now I'm able to share kind of the community I have, what you're doing. I'm just encouraged to finally start making headway in that. And I look forward to continue doing that.
That's beautiful, man. Let's cross-pollinate.
That's what everybody else does. So
right.
So as we always do, we start the show off with a quote. So Muoyo, can you give us a quote that you're one of your favorite quotes, and give us a story about how you use that quote in your everyday life?
Oh man, okay. There are a lot of them, but one that jumps to mind. Okay. All right, I'll give you one that's important to me, and this comes from Yoruba culture. My family's Nigerian. Mm-hmm. My mom's side is Yoruba, and there's this quote that says, "Hard work does not kill; it is poverty that kills." Right? And so the Yoruba have a saying for pretty much everything, and that's one that my grandma would always say, and my mom kind of took it from her, and it became important to me. Because, sometimes we have the tendency to just be afraid to work, to be afraid to get in there and go hard. And, you wonder why things aren't going the way you want them to go. Mm-hmm. But you find that if you put in the effort, then you start to, get those lucky breaks and things start to go your way. So, I think it's just helped me at various stages of life, whether it be in the MBA process, like you talked about, or when I was trying to start a company and I was still working at a full-time job. And even now, trying to start different businesses, and things aren't always smooth sailing, but that work can always be an equalizer for you and can always help you to get ahead. So
work is the ultimate equalizer. And I know this show in particular, we're going to cross the gamut. We're going to talk about your NBA experience. We're going to talk about your experience post NBA, talk about the apps, talk about podcasting, because your story, even though you're still young, your story has definitely been all over the place. But before we get into Princeton, Wharton, 6-figure apps, turning down 7-figure offers, which I can't wait to ask about. Yeah. But can you share with our audience a little bit about your background? I know you spoke earlier, kind of where you're from and the kind of who you are.
Sure. And you can tell me if I do a good job with this. So let's see. My family, as I mentioned, is Nigerian, and that's a big part of who I am. I grew up in a Nigerian household in Brooklyn, New York. Mm-hmm. I spent the first 18 years of my life in Brooklyn. Attended school there. Went to high school in the city in Manhattan. Mm-hmm. And, I was always into sports. Soccer was my first sport. Then I played a lot of basketball in high school. still into sports, but I'm a little bit older now, so don't do it as much. In college, I studied computer science. I was always into technology, so I thought that computer science would be a good thing for me to go into. And I followed that into the professional field. I work for I work for IBM, for Microsoft. Initially, I was a software engineer. Then I got the MBA, came out. I was a business manager after that. Sounds like I'm doing more than I was there. But really, I was doing spreadsheets, but I was a business manager. And, while I was doing that, I kind of became dissatisfied with the job, and I was working on things on the side. I was working on building some apps. And long story short, like my side project became more financially viable than what I was doing at work. So I was forced to take it seriously and decided to make that a full-time thing. And, that kind of led to where we are now. Did I touch?
Yeah, nah, that's good.
Right, cool.
But we about to unpack all that because a lot of nuggets and jewels. So before, tell us how growing up in a Nigerian household is. And the reason why I ask, because first of all, shout out to Nigerian and all of Africa, because we've had a great contingent that's growing every day. Shout out to Emmanuel Johnson, episode, I believe 14, to kind of open up that floodgate. But we've had people on the episode, but I never ask about the culture and growing up in that culture. Could you briefly share with the audience what it was like growing up in a Nigerian household?
Of course. And I got to give a shout out to our Super Eagles of Nigeria, who won bronze medal in the Olympics in soccer. So we're excited about that. But yeah, growing up in the Nigerian household, I'll say there were a lot of rules. Parents were very concerned with not letting. So it was Brooklyn. It was the 1980s. There were a lot of things going on. I was often not allowed to go outside, and the people who I played with had to be people who my parents knew, right? So there were like a couple people whose houses I could actually go to. So that was a big part of it. The food was a big part of it. We eat a lot. I don't know if you've had Nigerian food. We eat a lot of.
I haven't. Yeah, I haven't.
You got to do it. So jollof rice is a big thing for us and for a lot of West African countries. People have these wars over who has the best jollof rice or whatever. I won't get into that right now.
Yeah, please don't want anybody leaving the podcast.
Not going to start a war on your airwaves. So yeah, jollof rice. We eat fried plantains called dodo. All kinds of great stuff. All kinds of tasty stuff. Soccer is like a religion, like it is for a lot of places around the world. And I don't know. I think my parents just had a lot of good lessons for me on how I should be educated, how I should conduct myself, how I should think of myself in terms of, I guess, just self-esteem. And not all of it was really them telling me to do stuff. Some of it was just them watching me. So, for example, in school, it's not, they wouldn't really tell me, hey, you got to do your homework. You got to do your homework and all that stuff all the time. I just kind of knew I had to do it. And they didn't really come to school on Parent Teachers Day or anything, but I just knew I had to perform. And it wasn't, I never really had any questions about, I never had these issues about, hey, are these other people smart? In fact, I had the other problem where I would think, I just thought I was the smartest kid ever on earth, right? And I think that's just because of me watching them and, them making believe that I could do anything.
That's deep. And it's crazy you say that because I ran across a quote the other day that was mind blowing to me. I never heard it. He said, I don't know, it was an unknown quote, but it was like a lot of people, everybody has advice, but there's few that serve as examples.
Yeah.
And I think that's what you're saying about your parents. Like they weren't always lecturing. Cause I've had, I ain't gonna lie, I ain't gonna put my dad on blast, but I had parents in the past. I have more than one parent, but they've been like, yo, go do your homework or read all this other stuff, but you never saw them reading. You
Right,
never
right,
saw them
right,
doing that. So even though their heart was there, the love is there, but sometimes it doesn't translate if you're not even living it out. So I'm glad
right.
that you were able to kind of bring that out.
Yeah, no, definitely, man. Just, my mom was a professor. She's still a professor at Brooklyn College.
Hmm.
My dad was a physical therapist. And, especially just that reading habit is still with me from today.
Hmm.
We talked, I think we talked about when we were on the phone the other day. Like,
Yeah.
I read all the time. I just discovered audiobooks for some reason and really into that right now. So yeah, that whole influence in my childhood was big.
Man, that's huge. So, what led you to Princeton, and why didn't you choose the HBCU? Hey, I was just at the last
Yeah,
part. I wanted to add on the biggest thing, like what even led you to
got you.
shoot for the Ivy League. But before we even get to that question, why not Did you even thinking about HBCU?
So I thought about it briefly. I think my parents didn't really want me to do it.
Yeah.
So, and they kind of just ruled, you know.
Why is it like that though? Because I had Ngazi, CEO of Heat Free Hair. Shout out to Ngazi. She was on her father didn't speak to her for 4 years because she went to
Yeah.
North Carolina A&T.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. I don't know I don't really know what the reason and the rationale was, but like they just weren't for it. And so I ended up applying to about 6 different schools, I'd say.
Hmm.
And I think I got into 4 of them, and I was waitlisted at one and rejected at one. So Princeton was one of them. And I had said that, I told them, they asked me, hey, which one are you considering? Where do you want to go? And I mentioned one of the other schools,
Hmm.
right? And then the reaction was like, okay, well, that's cool. Well, you're going to go to Princeton. I was like, all right, well, I guess I'm going to go to Princeton.
Uh-huh.
But I was still into it at the time because at the time I was dating a woman who was from Jersey.
Hmm.
She was from Irvington, New Jersey,
Oh, that's right. That's
and
right.
it's not too far away from there. It's right next to Newark and East Orange in that area.
Hmm.
So I was happy to be in Jersey,
Hmm.
So it worked. I didn't fight them too much on it.
Hmm. Man, that's big. So I know we don't want to go all into your Princeton experience, but in a nutshell, first of all, how was it like being a person like a minority on campus,
Yeah.
and what was your whole experience in a nutshell at Princeton?
So when I first got there, it felt like the Twilight Zone. I remember watching, because it's not like I hadn't been around white people before or
Uh-huh.
anything like that. I went to school at a school that they had lots of white people.
Hmm.
I'd say at least half or more for high school. And so I was used to that. I grew up in New York. It's very diverse, but I don't think I was around the kind of wealth, or at least the kind of
Yeah.
open wealth that I would see at Princeton. And, just folks going to play golf on a random afternoon. And
As college kids
yeah,
playing
yeah.
golf. Let's go play what?
There was a golf course on the campus,
Wow.
off to a certain side of the campus. So some people would go take advantage of that and go play golf. And then, the way people would talk and interact was different. So it was just something to get used to. And then it was such a small town compared to New York, New York City and Brooklyn. So just getting used to that. And there weren't that many black people around, so that wasn't something I was used to.
Hmm.
The black people you see would be the same black people over and over, pretty much.
Hmm.
So it was just different. I think I had a really good experience educationally,
Hmm.
right? But I didn't really love it from a social perspective. But I kind of just told myself, this is going to be worth it someday, and it's going to pay off.
So when you go to schools or colleges like that, especially in undergrad, like, does it? I know you said it's going to pay off or whatnot, but do you ever feel like you're a part of the culture, or is it kind of just you're just going to class, or like what was the vibe?
Yeah, for me, I mean, I definitely had my group of friends and everything. I had quite a
Hmm.
few friends, who I'm still friends with today. But for me, it was just more of an academic thing, right? And being part of the culture. I mean, I guess I was involved in a lot of different things at school, but I'm not one of those alums that's gonna wave the flag super hard. Right? You know, I'm happy I went to the school. I respect the school. I'm glad for what I got out of the situation and everything like that. But yeah, I don't know if I have as much school spirit as others.
Hey, it is what it is. It is what it is. So take us through. Okay, you come from that place. You graduate from Princeton. What's next before the MBA? Like what's next after that?
Okay, graduated from Princeton before the MBA, right? So interestingly enough, I kind of played my cards a little bit wrong when it comes to the career side of things. So during my summer periods, and I probably should have been going for internships in my field, I ended up doing a bunch of different community focused work, right? Which sounds like a good thing, is a good thing to some degree, but might not help you as much if you're trying to land a certain job, right?
Yeah. You can still do community work while doing full-time internship, but I mean, I'm clapping for you. I mean, that's cool. I'm doing a slow clap, but so what even led you to do all that?
I'm not sure, man. I'm not really sure, but I work for this organization called the Princeton University Preparatory Program for 2 summers, and what they were trying to do was help high school students get into competitive colleges. So that there were, it was an ethnically diverse group, and coming from 3 schools. One was Princeton High School, so that was like the most affluent school there. Then Ewing High School, which was a little bit less affluent, and then Trenton High School, which was less affluent. Like that's the capital of Jersey, and it's very urban, right? So it got all these kids from those different high schools who have been identified as, kids who are going for it and achieving things, just trying to help them get through the front door of these competitive schools. So I kind of dug that mission. I met the guy who was running it, and I decided I wanted to be a part of it.
That sounds dope.
It was dope, and did that for 2 summers. Another summer I worked for this community technology center in Harlem, and it was just, really helping that community with technology, like learning HTML. People would come in to use computers, learning Photoshop, all different kinds of things around technology. So I had a great experience there, met some great people there. But what I wasn't doing at that time was, programming internships and stuff like that. So, I come out and I decide that I want to work for a Microsoft or a Google or something like that. And they want to see what you've done. What's your experience? What are you capable of? I still got interviews, but I didn't get jobs. So it took me a while to find. It took me a while to find a job. I ended up taking something that I was a little bit overqualified for. It was I say overqualified. That sounds kind of snooty or something.
Hey, it is what it is.
Overqualified for the job. So I took this job. It was really an internship.
So you had a couple months after graduating from Princeton where you didn't have no job.
Exactly, right? So, you would think, I guess a lot of people think, you went to this school, so, you're set, you're good, right?
Like, you went to Princeton, like, you should be you are the classic black guy they need at companies.
Right. Yeah. So for whatever reason, that's not the way that everybody else feels. So yeah, I definitely struggled to get that initial look. Ended up going to this company. It was something I just found, I think, through a newspaper ad or Monster.com ad or whatever.
Newspaper ad?
I think so. I don't, I worked through my school's job boards and the career services and everything after those opportunities. But I was just trying to do whatever I could as well. So this one was, I think I found it myself. And it was a company in the city, information builder software. So it's like mid-sized software company, and did that interview, and the interview was actually, he was a black guy from Jamaica. He was a Jamaican black dude from England. Right?
Wow, what in the world? Where they make them at?
There's lots. But yeah, so we had a good interview, and I think I was able to impress him enough, and he just kind of gave me a shot at the job. And that was my start. So
that was your start, and then
it was a rocky start.
And then you found your way into Microsoft, right?
So next up was IBM.
Oh, okay.
I was at this information builder's job probably for like 6-8 months, and I'm trying to figure out what I think I just wanted more. Like I was on an hourly wage, and I'm sitting there at my desk like, man, is this what happens when you graduate from school? Is this like it? Is this what I'm there for like 8-9 hours a day.
Yeah, it gets grinding, and it's like this can't be it.
And I think I came to the realization, and because I was getting paid hourly, I didn't really get holidays like people got. There were like only a few holidays a year. That I got.
So you weren't even getting holiday. You working hourly, working holiday. You're like, yo, this is not what I signed up when I signed them papers to go to Princeton and whatnot. So
I was just sitting there in kind of like an existential crisis kind of like, is this what my, and I came to the realization that I wasn't going to get a summer break. Because I didn't think about that.
That's when it gets real. Like that's when it gets real. When you graduate and you don't get no summer break, you don't get no break. You just start working forever.
I was like, so I'm just going to come in here every day, sit here, get coffee every day, have this dumb conversation I was like, this sucks. So I was like, all right, well, let's at least start looking for the next thing. Ended up finding this job with IBM. I think I did that through NSBE. Shout out to NSBE, National Society of Black Engineers. Yeah, they went to a NSBE event, met some people there. Got this guy, Bill Lawrence. I don't know if he still works for IBM, but I got Bill Lawrence's card. He was like, yeah, hit me up. And he put me in touch with this recruiting event. I was able to go there. And what was nice about that event is that you could interview with a whole bunch of different IBM divisions in the same day. They had like 20, 30 groups there. You could talk to all the hiring managers, interview with multiple people, and pretty much get a decision within the next couple of days.
Wow.
So that was pretty sweet. So that's how I got my next job. Ended up moving to Boston for that. And that was a whole nother chapter.
Yeah, man. So, you went right to the MBA, right?
Yeah. So after IBM, then I went to get the MBA. So I'll speed it up for you.
Yeah, first and foremost, how'd you get a freaking 750 on the GMAT? I know it's not a GMAT class, but I just want to ask,
no problem. Yeah. I've always been good at standardized tests, and it's just I don't find it to be. It's funny because I don't really respect the. It's great that I got it. I'm happy I got it, but to me, I look at the test and it just doesn't have much to do with anything other than just being good at the test. I just happen to be somebody who's good at tests for whatever, that's one of the weird, wacky skills I have. But how's that going to, starting my company, that test has never come into play. Even when I was in school, it's like the stuff that was on the test was not the stuff that was going to help you to do well in the classes. So I don't know. I guess it's just a way of figuring out if you can be good at a test.
Yeah, either that or, just making bread. All these tutors, man, my first time I started to MBA prep, they said, yo, Greg, you need to hire that tutor because I was in MLT MBA prep. Shout out to MLT MBA prep. And it's like, hire a tutor. I was like, okay, hire a tutor. Boom. Oh, $300 an hour, $400 an hour, $2,000 courses. I said, what? I said, I'm gonna get this $99 book package and we gonna make it work. But I know that, but the thing is though, I ain't gonna lie, shout out to people that do get tutors because it helps. But transition there. Why Wharton, man? Because I want to talk about this MBA experience real quick. We had a personal conversation on the phone, but I know there's some people out there listening and they're like, first of all, what's the big deal about an MBA? What is it really worth it? Cause I want to have entrepreneur. I want to do this with that. So I want to quickly talk through this whole MBA thing because I think that's pivotal in your journey. So first, why Wharton? That's like a finance MBA spot.
So traditionally that's the way it's been thought of, but more recently, I think what Wharton has to offer is a lot more diverse. So the strength in finance is still there, but you'll also find a lot of people who want to be entrepreneurs. Going to the entrepreneurial program is very strong right now. And then one thing that I really liked was the international appeal. So just both in the student body and then in the program offerings. I had a lot of stuff where you can really integrate travel into your learning. So I like that a lot. So for me, it was the entrepreneur program, the international aspect. And then I really liked the people who I met a lot, right? Like I really liked, because it seemed like I was meeting a lot of people who were really accomplished, but then still not feeling themselves too much, still down to earth, right? Like, I think I gave you the example. I have a buddy, he started 3.
Yeah, please expand upon that, because I was blown by even hearing that.
Yeah. So there's a guy, my friend Davis Smith. He's currently CEO of this company pooltables.com. So that was before school. They became the largest retailer in North America of pool tables. And next up, he started this company called baby.com.br that was in Brazil, and they became Brazil's largest online retailer of baby products.
Wow.
And now, man, it's so slipping my mind, but he started an outdoor gear company, and they have a dual mission of alleviating world poverty. Cotopaxi is the name of his company.
Okay.
And so, yeah, they're about creating outdoor gear for millennials, but then also having a social mission. And he was one of the first people that I met when I first, was in the school, and we had a pre-weekend for the incoming students, and we met at this bowling party, and he'd done all this stuff, but he was so, you wouldn't know it. He wasn't somebody who's going to come out and tell you like, hey, start a whole bunch of $1 million company, multi-million-dollar companies.
Yeah.
And so I had that experience.
So you had that experience first, but before I even ask like the whole worth question, and I want you to kind of share what you share with me as far as advice, seeing if you're considering it. But what was the difference between undergrad being at Princeton and then MBA at Wharton, as far as culturally and just in general?
Yeah, I enjoyed my experience, my total experience at Wharton a lot more. I think a lot of that probably has to do with just where I was at as a person in terms of maturity, and then being ready to take advantage of everything a program has to offer. Nowadays, yeah, I think that's really what it was. Like, I just knew more about what I was trying to do in life. Like, hey, I want to lead an organization, and I'm trying to become a better speaker, and I want to be an entrepreneur. And when I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do, but when you know more about where you want to go, it's easier to just take advantage of what's around you. Whereas I think during undergrad, I was more so just floating, showing up, and, letting things happen to me. And I don't think that's ever where you really want to be. but yeah, it can take you time to realize that.
Yeah, I agree, man. So, as far as for people that are considering MBAs, what advice would you give them in general?
Yeah, I don't like to give anybody cookie cutter advice about that. I was actually just talking to a young man about this the other day while I was in the supermarket. But I think it's all about your goals. Where, what are you trying to get to ultimately? Where do you see yourself? Or where do you want to be in 5 years? Where do you want to be ultimately? And then, how would an MBA contribute to that? Is the MBA going to be pivotal in you landing that job that's going to put you on that path to get you where you want to go? Or, are you just doing it because other people are doing it? And if it's just because other people are doing it, or because of prestige and stuff I think it's probably a waste of money, in my opinion. But if it is going to fit into your career path, or just provides you time and space to pursue something that you want to work on. I think those can be very valid, very valuable reasons to do it. But it's really going to be a personal thing for everybody. You just got to keep in mind how much it's going to cost, and then also look at the benefit side of things. That said, even though if you look at my career arc and the things that I'm doing now, I would tell you that I don't really need an MBA to do. I don't need any degree to do what I'm doing right now. There are people out there just doing it. But for me, it was valuable in helping to change the way that I think. I think I very much thought as an engineer, as you mentioned before, as somebody who's a programmer, and it just allowed me to think more about business and look at situations and see, okay, this party is profiting and this is why, and this is like the business system that is going on.
The systems.
I think that's the biggest way that it helped me out. Now, some people already had that level of thinking, and maybe an MBA wouldn't add to what they were doing. But for me, it did help me a lot in that way.
Yeah. And then, so you graduate from Wharton, you got your Princeton degree, you got your IB experience, you graduate from Wharton. And then I read somewhere, and you can confirm this, you still graduated with no job.
Yeah.
So how did that happen again? Like,
Wait, let me see. Did I? Yeah, I did.
I'm so confused right now.
No, I got a job. I didn't graduate with no job, but it took me a long time. It was, is that true? Let me see. Yeah, I believe I had a job, but I got it late in the game, right? It took me a long time to get it. I could be remembering that wrong, but either way, yeah, it was definitely a struggle for me. I'll tell you that much. It was a struggle for me to get the internship. It was a struggle for me to get the job. And so part of the reason, what I was trying to do, the story I went in with, when you go into MLT, they want you to come up with your story and the path you want to follow. What I wanted to do, I wanted to go into consulting.
As everybody does.
Right. I saw it as just, hey, it's something where it allows you to keep your options open and you get to learn a lot about a lot of different businesses and stuff. So I want to go into consulting and then stay there for 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, something like that, and then go do my own thing. That's what I was thinking. I don't know. And what happened is I did all these interviews for these different consulting companies, and I was not getting the job. I would make it to the final rounds and stuff, and it just was not happening for me. It was happening over and over. I worked really, really hard at this. I sat down with people who were consultants at all these firms, had them prep me. I went through all the case books over and over. I would do this while I was in class. I would do this while people were partying. I was working on this thing.
He was going in.
Yeah, I got my suit game tight, got my hair taped and lined up.
Got the tape.
I'd be walking down the street to my interview and people were like, yo, young man, I would hire you. And I was like, you should. But nonetheless, I was not getting the job. So part of the problem, when you do go to these schools and you're competing for these jobs that a lot of people want, a lot of people going for the same jobs have already done the job. So like I'm interviewing at BCG and McKinsey, and I'm right next to consultants who have been at BCG and McKinsey. Some of them, like their objective, I just want to switch from BCG to McKinsey. I want to switch from McKinsey to BCG. I want to switch from Accenture to Bain or whatever. So you got that. And then another thing that I figured out later that was working against me. So in this particular field, one thing that they really value is structured, repeatable thought, right? So one thing that feedback I would hear oftentimes is, hey, we like your answer, but we don't like how you got there. And I'm sitting there like, what the hell does that mean? Right? Like, did I get the answer or did I not get the answer? But what they're all about, and I understand it. I'm not mad, I'm not placing blame, but they want you to be able to walk a client through exactly how you're getting to your thought. And stuff like that is really important to them. But if you think about it, some of the stuff that makes me, after, I mean, I did get an internship in consulting with IBM Global Business Services, but I didn't get the full-time offer.
Is that was
but
the one without degrees without? I think I know what you're talking about though. My bad for interjecting. But continue.
no, tell me, what were you saying?
Because I know they have consulting consulting by degrees or something like that program.
Oh, no. It's this they have this organization called Global Business Services.
Okay. I know GBS,
so I was working for GBS in New York City. And so I got that internship, but I didn't get the full time. And so anyway, I just say that to say, me getting rejected from all these consulting companies and me not getting the full time, it should be telling me like, hey, maybe you're just not that good at consulting, right? and that might be true, but I think that some of the attributes that I have that make me a piss poor consultant also make me a pretty good at entrepreneurship. You know what I mean? Like they want to see this in the box, linear, this, then that, then this, then that. And that's just not how I think. Right. And so I was trying to force myself into that situation because I thought that was the right thing to do. But it turns out it probably wasn't for me. Right. And once I was able to, I guess, get past that and realize that, and by the way, it didn't happen immediately after, going through that. I got a job with Microsoft after that, and I was working as a business manager, as I mentioned, but it's only after I was doing my own thing after Microsoft. And I look back, I'm like, oh, this makes sense. Like, there's a reason why I didn't fit in. Like, I was never meant to do this job.
Yeah, it just wasn't it. So
yeah,
now it's time to transition into your niche, like kind of where you're at right now, and the explosion within this app space. What people are probably been listening and waiting to hear about. But I just wanted to paint the picture because you have a crazy journey and just different experience. But now let's transition from where you were, so you can kind of walk us through your exit once you even started working on your side project, which was developing apps and that whole process, because that is right now kind of what just changed your whole trajectory.
Yeah, that is a big game changer for me. And I do have to share. I gotta share. So I actually have 10 million plus downloads. I think
I shortchanged you 8 million.
Yeah, I can't let you short me, man. I work for them. So yes. So did you want me to talk about how that came about?
Yeah, like how that even came up. Like how did that even come about? Because I know your background's in engineering, but when did you even make that crossover while you was at Microsoft to get into the space, and then walk us through it taking freaking off?
Got you. Yeah. So there's I don't know. It's funny. You and I both went through the MLT process. Yeah. So you know how they talk to you about your steps need to make sense and be structured,
logical, strategic,
and logical,
leverage.
And that's cool, but I don't think that life works that way. In a lot of cases, I think it's a good story. And like no shade to MLT. MLT is an awesome organization, and they're trying to get people prepped and into school. So I get it, but success is often just not linear and not structured. It's going to go in all different directions. And how I got to this app thing and entrepreneurial success is a bunch of different failures, like just messing up at a bunch of stuff and figuring out stuff that was going to work and moving forward with it. So like, let me break that down a little bit more. When I was at Microsoft, I started to kind of get dissatisfied just because I felt that I wasn't receiving a lot of respect on the job. I wasn't being treated the right way. I actually got demoted in title at a certain time.
Goodness gracious.
Yeah.
You were still making 6 figures though.
Yeah. So the money didn't change. I was still making 6 figures. And that's one thing I would tell myself all the time. I try, no matter where I'm at, I always try to stay grateful about everything that I have. That's another thing that my parents gave me. And, going to Nigeria as a young person gave me, seeing people in like real, seeing people in poverty, right? Seeing that, of course, you can go outside here. I'm in the DC area. I can go outside and see people in poverty. Anywhere you at, you can see poverty. But just, seeing a different level, I suppose, and seeing that people could still appreciate what they have and be happy, which is not to say that everybody there is in poverty. They're not, but you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah, we get you. Mm-hmm.
Just that. I would always have the gratitude for the fact, hey, I'm getting this check. That's a great thing. A lot of people don't get that. I'm happy. I'm happy about that. But at the same time,
Mm-hmm.
like there's only so much just negativity, toxicity, being disrespect. Like as a man, as a human being.
Like, what were they doing? Like, can you, I don't know. I don't
yeah.
want to. I know we're not painting the picture bad about Microsoft, but I just want to,
Right.
as far as the story purposes, like what? Like, tell me one time they did. What was one disrespect story that you was like, bro, what in the world?
Okay, so I mean, like, I'm all for team play and doing whatever it takes for the team. But how many times are you going to ask me to make copies, right? To make copies for them. I'm like, okay, if we just acknowledge that you're paying me 6 figures for this job, right? So is this really the best use of my time just to be making copies all the time? Like, I that's not how I would run it. So that was one example. Then another one I like to bring up. Just being in meetings, I sit down, get to the meeting early, sit down at the table, get ready, making conversation. Somebody would come in and tell me to get up from the table so that somebody else could sit down at the table.
Are you serious?
Yeah. Like that. So, and to provide some color to it, this was I was working for Microsoft public sector. So, a lot of the experience there was colored by the military, a lot of ex-military folks, a lot of stuff about like rank and order and who works for who. So if you work for this guy, you're important than this person. But in my mind, I'm like, I'm a person, and like I know I'm capable and I'm smart. So like, just don't give me that. You know what I mean?
Get up.
I'm sitting here, and this person is not better than and it'd be one thing if it was somebody. If I'm getting up for, I don't know, the vice president, and I'm obviously not the vice president, I'm like, all right, cool, but it's people on my same level. So I'm like, I wasn't for that. Then there was the thing with the demotion thing, and they let us know, okay, you're getting demoted, but your title's still the same. As this is happening, some of my peers that came in the same time are getting promoted, so they're telling me 2 different things, like, hey, you're doing a great job. Keep it up, blah, blah, blah. At the same time, we got to take your title down, and these people are getting promoted. So I'm like, okay, something's wrong with this story. I don't follow. Right. And what else happened? Then, I get these calls on the weekend, just getting yelled at for various things that happen. Like, sometimes I get yelled at because my boss didn't like the numbers. Like, I'll report the numbers to him, how the business is doing, what our revenue is looking like for the week, for the month, and this and that. I'm reporting to you. Are you going to get mad at the weatherman because it's going to snow? I'm letting you know what is happening accurately. If you want me to lie to you, I can lie to you, but I'm just telling you what it is. Like, don't yell at me because the numbers are low. That's what it is. So
I can see I brought you to a very dark place.
It's funny to me now, and I think that it's important to go through things. It's important to go through trials. It just makes you stronger. It makes you appreciate what you have more once you get past it. You know what I mean? I can always, like, once I quit, the weight that came off my shoulders was amazing. You know what I mean? And, man, I feel like I took this off track a little bit. What was I supposed to?
No, you're fine. That was that was a great flavor and great color.
Yeah.
And now you're just transitioning into that. When did you even start making games like apps? Like, where did this come from? Yeah.
I just got so.
I liked it. No, that's those parts. That's why people come to this show for stuff like that. Because some people that listening right now, they can relate. They're like, yo, I'm doing the same thing.
Yeah, and so that's the thing, man. That anger can consume you. And I started getting joined into a place where I started forgetting that I was a smart person. Right? It's like almost you're in this environment and people are just talking to you like you're stupid and treating you like you're stupid and like you're less. And you can start to believe it. So that's part of why this doing stuff on the outside became important. I was like, okay, in my day job right now, I'm just not doing much to stimulate my mind. The hardest part of my job right now is political. It's just dealing with the BS and trying to manage the people above me and, look good for whoever and whatever. And by the way, that's not my favorite game. So that stuff was mentally draining. But what I was doing in terms of intellect was just not hard. I was filling out spreadsheets, adding numbers, stuff that you learn in like elementary school, right? So I was just like, man, I need to do something to keep sharp and just to have something to look forward to. Because this work thing is not, I don't want to become depressed.
Yeah.
So I'd always been somebody who did things on the side anyway, whether it was web design, graphic design, or whatever. So I ended up running into somebody who was talking about making mobile apps using outsourcers. And I ran into him actually when I was doing research for my previous idea, which failed. So like, I think I told you, I'm not sure if I told you, but I want to like combine, I want to create this web portal or this e-commerce site to combine social media with women shoe shopping.
What?
Right? And the reason why I came to that idea is because the previous thing I had done, I ran into trouble with on the demand side. Like I made something that nobody really wanted that much. So I was like, all right, this time I'm going to make something that's in demand. So I was like, women love shoes. I know it for a fact. It's a fact. So I was trying to build this portal, ran into a problem on that because I realized, man, like I just don't have any passion for this product and this service. And I didn't see the path to revenue or profitability. I'm like, I'm gonna burn out here. I need to switch lane. But as I was researching internet marketing, I ran into this internet marketer guy who was starting to look at the mobile app space. And I was like, wow, this is interesting. He was talking about building a game and he didn't know how to program, but he figured out how to use an outsourcing site called Odesk and how to hire.
Odesk is a game changer, man.
Yeah. So he was using Odesk to hire folks overseas to help him to do the programming and bring his vision to life. And so I was following this guy for months, just watching his progress, and he would give reports on how things were going, how much money he was making, and just being very open and transparent. Then a few months down the road, he decides, hey, I'm going to offer a course. I'm going to offer a course to teach exactly what I'm doing and how I'm doing it. So, if you pay this price, you can also learn this skill. So I was just ready for anything else at that point. And I was looking at the opportunity. The things he was saying make sense. I kind of looked him up and did some background checking on Google and everything. And it just seemed like in things that he had done in the past, people were giving good reviews about him.
He's legit because now in the day, everybody and their mama has online courses, $797, $197, all this stuff, and it's like they have these outrageous taglines, these testimonials. But then you research the testimonials, like, I don't even, that person that testified don't even have an active website. Like, how are you charging? Right. But yeah, back to the story.
Yeah, so I looked into him, and I noticed that there were people that spent money with him that were still his friends.
Oh,
right?
That's a killer right there.
Yeah. So they spent money with him and they still spoke highly of him and, were ready to get online and spend more money with him. And there were people who would achieve results with him.
What's his freaking name? My bad.
Yeah. So his name is Trey Smith. He's actually, I had him on my podcast on, I think it was episode 10, I think. And this guy has started 4 multi-million-dollar companies, all bootstrapped. He's raised no money for them. And just hustled his way to the top. So I took that course with him, and that was the start of my learning. I took another course with this other guy named Chad Moretta. He's written this book called App Empire. That's a very, very influential book among app entrepreneurs. And after those courses, I was like, all right, look, like I need to stop spending money and I need to just make something happen at this point, start putting things into practice. So I just started working on it for a few months until we were able to get something live. And obviously that's abbreviated, but we can go any way with that you want to.
Yeah, because I know. So, how many times did it take from starting to making something live, and about how much did it cost you?
Yeah. So I let's see. I started off. I said I wanted to. I don't know how I came up with this idea, but I was like, I want to make the game Mario Kart, but for mobile. I guess because I was looking for something that was already proven to be popular. That I want to take a proven idea that I could kind of improve on, and so started with that idea. I hired a programmer on Odesk. This guy was a student in Thailand, I believe. And I hired an artist. My first artist was from Hong Kong. I think either Hong Kong or China. Good artist, did not really speak English. So that was a problem. And because, we couldn't communicate. And so that just added a lot of time to it. So we had to part ways on that. Found another artist, maybe in the Philippines or something like that. And I believe I spent about like $650 on the programmer for this project. So, it's not
at all.
I don't want to discount and say it's no money, but it's inexpensive for programming. But part of the reason is because he was a student and he just didn't have that much in his portfolio. He had some good stuff in his portfolio, but he wasn't.
But you took a risk. It was like, it was a risk for you, and he was starting up just like anybody, like as a speaker. I might have the most talent in the world as a speaker, but if I only got 2 gigs under my belt, I can't say I need 10,000 a gig.
Right. So, I played the stuff in his portfolio. I was like, okay, it looks like he knows what he's doing. And I can get them at a good price. Where it cost me is it took a long time just with him being, having to devote so much time to school and everything. So, it ended up taking like 7 months for that, which isn't terrible, but it wasn't the level of game that we were making just wasn't
7 months.
What's that?
It just wasn't 6 or 7 months worth of work.
Right. And to be honest, a lot of that was my fault being inexperienced. There's so many, a lot of times inexperienced entrepreneurs don't want to just put stuff out on the market. They want to keep on tweaking and testing and changing things that don't really matter. So that's what I was like, hey, let's change that character's mustache or something. A silly example, but stuff like that. I was just changing around all kinds of stuff that was not going to affect the bottom line success of the game when I should have been trying to just get it out on the market and just learn, right? So for like anybody who's getting in apps or entrepreneur anyway, I would just say like speed is critical, and don't be afraid. Try to just get your stuff out there so you can get some feedback and then start making it better, right? But I started watching folks who were in my class, and thank goodness they had that community around the class who were putting out stuff that was not as good as what I had. They were just putting out stuff, but because they were moving with speed, they were making money. So I was like, man, I need to learn from that. So I started to just release my stuff so I get feedback from the market and find my niche. And I didn't hit immediate success. I think my first month of having that game live, I made about $50, something like that. I wrote about this one time, so I got the figures written down.
And I'll definitely link to that the article you mentioned and your show in the show notes. But yeah,
you're the man. So I wasn't making a ton of money off the bat, but I still had that pride from like, I did it. It's live. How many people have an app up? So I could show my parents, show my friends, and I just thought it was cool. But then after that, I had to think about, how are we going to make this more successful? How are we going to get more downloads? So I'm just watching what other people around me are doing, who is being successful, and how can I be more like them? And I think that's always valid, no matter what you're doing, what you're in. You want to look for you want to look for evidence of success, and then look for what are their methods, and then how can you emulate those methods. And how can you also emulate and take it to the next level? So I was like, all right, so a lot of these folks are making games. Let me try to make some games. I tried some entertainment apps, some, what else? Photography apps. And just looking at my results, I saw that I was doing the best with the games. So I was like, okay, let's stick with games. Let's make more games. And, all the while I'm studying a lot about the market. By this time, second month, third month, I was able to start making a couple hundred or $1,000, and I'm just studying about marketing. I'm really not spending time socializing. I'm before work, I'm hitting my programmers overseas. I'm talking to the artists. Lunch break, doing the same. After work, come home, read about how to get more downloads or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Study the App Store charts. I'm just immersed in this thing. I'm obsessed, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, just kept on doing that. Kept on getting incremental bumps. Get it from like 1,000 to 2,000. Then we hit December, which is like 6 months in. And I launched a few games in December, and I guess things just started to come together. You hit a turning point, and things took off for me. And I started like seeing numbers I hadn't seen before. I'm sitting there. I gone back to school for our African American MBA students conference. I'm sitting there in the thing. I'm hitting refresh on my dashboard for my ads and everything. And I see like, wow, okay, I made a couple $100 today. Like I've never seen that before.
Mm-hmm.
And the numbers just kept going up and up. And I think that day I probably hit like, I don't know, $400, $500 or maybe more. I don't know. But whatever it was just something I hadn't seen before. Mm-hmm. And that weekend I kept seeing the same thing. And then I started to do the math, and I'm like, okay, this is more than I make at work. If we average it out, I'm like, wow, that's it. Okay, but this could be a fluke because I just started. So let's see what's going on. And so I kind of just stuck with it, worked on some more games, because a lot of the games that I was making, what I was doing, I was able to put them out pretty quickly because I was buying source code that was already completed, and then just having somebody work on the graphics and then have the programmer change up a few things about the game, maybe add a few things to make it a little bit better. But this method of production severely reduced the cost and reduced the time to market.
So you got a lot more efficient with the process. So now, like nowadays, how long does it take to get the app on the market?
Oh, well now, so I'm not doing the same thing that I did.
Okay, yeah. So my bad. I know you was wrapping up. So you see these dings coming in, and then like, so you went from 400, 500. Were you making almost like $1,000 a day doing this?
At certain points, I was making more, man.
That's insane.
Yeah. So I mean that's, and what you start to realize is, so one time I had this. It's funny. I had an interview with TechCrunch one time because I had a game that really took off, and it hit the top 10 in Apple, top 10 games, and it was like top 20 of all apps. So it was doing really well.
Good God. Really well. That's like all time well, dude.
That was epic when it was going on. Just, you can imagine how much I was hitting refresh on all my screen. And so like that thing was going crazy. It was making like more money than I had ever seen, right? I mean, what you start to realize is that you got to put all this stuff in. There are a lot of people who are making a lot more money and people who are making less or whatever. But, I'd never seen anything like it. So the person at TechCrunch, we're going through the interview. They asked me like, okay, so, this is doing well. How much money are you making? And then the biggest mistake I made is I just told her because after that came out, then everybody's just coming up to me thinking that like, yo, Muoyo's rich, and I wasn't, I did well with it. I made money with it. But it's like there are ups and downs to the thing. So it's like, because I made that amount that day or that month or whatever, it doesn't mean it's going to be like that forever. You know what I mean? It's a whole game. It's a whole flow. But yeah, that was quite an experience. Quite an experience.
Man. So let's transition. So when did you leave? Like you said, you got out of that, right?
So I got out of doing it in that exact model. So they call that model reskinning. But I mentioned, buying the code and repurposing it and upgrading it. I don't really operate like that anymore. I more so, I sold that portfolio that I had to another entrepreneur. And the way I'm approaching it now is to create stuff in partnership with people who have large audiences. So like different celebrities or different online influencers, work with them on apps. Like I just created an emoji app with somebody and working with some NFL guy to do a game. So it's all about, working with somebody who can bring a lot of marketing power to the table. I'll bring the app side and my expertise in that to the table. And then we create something that's going to be a win-win for both of us. Yeah, but I'm not doing the same thing where it's going to be a super quick turnaround because I'm working with a code that's already done.
Yeah. So why'd you get out of that game though? Like, cause I mean, if it was working, I mean, why leave?
Well, the markets change. I think that was a young, immature market, and like the way it was a little bit unnatural, where there were people who were making money, like doing stuff that shouldn't have been making money. But it's just, it was such a Wild West marketplace, and you could throw something up, put a few ads in it and make money. That wasn't what I was doing. Like I was creating stuff. I was creating games that people did enjoy. They were simple, but they were well done, had good graphics and whatever. But it's still the level of stuff that I was creating is not something that I think I could scale. It still makes money because I still watch the rankings every now and then. I'll log into different sites and look at where my apps are at. They're still ranked and they're still steady. But I think it would be difficult to take it to another level with that same approach, right? Yeah. There wasn't a lot of room for growth. Maybe linear growth, but it would take a ton of effort, but no way to go to the next level. And I want to find a way to go to the next level.
Got you. And I read somewhere too that you turned down some 7-figure offers for the company.
Yeah, so that was some crazy stuff.
Yeah, like what? Like walk us through that. Like this is, like I said, this is new territory for the Minority Trailblazers podcast.
Yeah, that was new territory for me too, man. Yeah, that was a crazy experience, but a very valuable one for me and for my confidence. And what was going on there? That was like early in the game, and it was around Christmas time. And Christmas is a big time in the App Store because everybody's getting new devices. So you have the biggest traffic days around Christmas time and like up to January 1st, maybe a little bit after. So I was trying to get as many apps live as I could and working real hard. I got a phone call from somebody. It ends up being this guy who was part of my mastermind group. Right? I had an app mastermind group that I become a part of with a bunch of people who are doing pretty well, just to share secrets and strategies and stuff like that. So he hits me up, and long story short, he lets me know that he wants to buy my company. And I was really confused because, hey, this thing was live for 6 months. Like we just barely started to see success. I'm like, what are you talking about? And, is this a scam? I started thinking about scam. Like, even though I know you from the mastermind group, I don't really know you. So like, what's going on? But so what happened is I guess he's been an entrepreneur for a while. He'd gone to Korea and raised money from a Korean businessman. The guy gave him like $1.5 million to go buy some like small to medium sized app portfolios and try to mold it into a company and then make something of that company. And so he sold this guy this whole dream, I suppose. And so he was trying to execute on it. So he wanted me to be a part of it. I was, it was just, I was skeptical of the whole thing just because I never heard of anybody trying to do something like that. Yeah. Especially, you've just been doing something for a short amount of time.
And you get $1 million. You like, this is what? Oh, how much?
So the first offer wasn't even for $1 million. The first offer was, I said it wasn't even for $1 million. That sounds funny. But the first offer was that it was going to be $400,000, which, by the way, I think is a nice chunk of change. but it was going to be $400,000. Going to give $200,000 up front, and then $200,000 was going to be in stock for his company, and I was going to become part owner of that company, and I guess I would hold more equity than anybody else. I think I would hold equal equity to him, and more than anybody else. And I'm there thinking about, one of the things I'm thinking about is like, hey, I'm just getting used to being my own boss. Do I really want to kind of go into somebody else's thing right now? And I wasn't sure I did. But anyway, yeah, he was like half cash, half stock. And I just kept kind of pushing it off, slowing the thing down, and being like, hey, I need time to decide. My thing is just starting. I'm not sure. Thank you for the offer, but I don't know. Yeah. And but by the way, I'm also looking at it like my company is making a lot of money right now. So it's quite possible I could just make that money myself this year and not have any need for any of that. So that's another thing I was looking at. So I keep kind of like holding him at bay. Like, I don't want to do. He keeps hitting me up. Like, the more I'm like, no, the more he's like, just trying to get me to do the deal. I think that what he and his business partner just saw that I was good at. I was good at figuring out how to get the apps to rank. And if you get the apps to rank, then you can get downloads. And if you get downloads, then you're going to make money. So they wanted that expertise to be part of their team. And they had a whole bunch of programmers who've been in the industry for years and years. So their thought was like, hey, we'll combine this programming talent, onshore Canada folks, like high caliber programmers, with this marketing talent, and like we'll have a big win. But yeah, I kept holding them off. They wanted, as I mentioned, they were in Canada, so they wanted me to move to Canada, be part of that company.
So it was a whole kit and caboodle. It wasn't like, cash out $1 million. It was like you were going to be a part of it. Like, this is
I was going to be a part of it. Yeah, like no matter what, I was going to get the cash up front, but the stock part was dependent on me remaining a part of the company for a certain amount of time, and then I was supposed to be part of the whole deal. So that was another factor against it. But me and my lady, we actually did end up going to Canada to meet with them. And, that actually convinced me, okay, that it's actually a legit operation. I saw the people working with them. I spoke to them. I saw they were trying to buy office space at the time. So, yeah, I got to check that out. But I was still like, after all that, I was like, hey, I appreciate everything, guys, but I'm still not sure. Like, let's just give this some time to play out, right? But he keeps putting the pressure. They decide that they're going to now up the offer. Now it's $600. They're going to give me $300 up front and $300 on the back end, right? So I never saw any. I'm like, wow. So I just earn $100,000 to $200,000 just like that. Is that how it works? So they offer that, and I'm still like I said, my company's still doing good. I kind of want to look at that. Like, we just started out, so I'm still like, I don't know, guys. Like, I don't know. And they end up dropping the terms that I need to move to Canada. So it was just like
concessions.
Yeah. It's like, and that's one thing, man. One thing that I realized from that situation and certain things that happened after, if you contrast that with me trying to get a job, scenario, it's just a whole different deal. And the thing is, like, if you do something, if you're exceptional at something, right, and people can see that, and you can prove it, and it's out there, then you no longer have to really sell yourself like that, right? It's like people will try to sell you. And so that was just a whole different thing. And so after that 300 and 300, then they were like, hey, if you don't like that, we can structure it as, they were like, we can give you 1.1, but in order for you to get the 1.1, there were a whole bunch of different hurdles that I needed to meet in terms of my performance. So when I actually looked at it and did the math, I was like, man, for me to get that 1.1, it's like if I hit that, I think I would earn just about as much on my
on
own.
my own. Like, it's like, if I'm
Right.
hitting those numbers, golly,
Yeah,
like, I
yeah,
might as
yeah.
well
just the way it was structured. So I didn't like the deal I liked the best that they offered. And if I was to take any, it would have been the 300 and 300. But this whole thing kind of drove me crazy because it was the kind of thing I couldn't even really get that great advice from my parents on this, because it's like they've never been through that. You know what I mean? Like, they can give me advice and tell me what they think, but it's like they really haven't been through it. So it was tough. And I actually, when I got back from Canada, I took a couple days off from work, just called in sick, because like my brain was on fire. I didn't know what to do.
So all this was happening while you were still working for Microsoft?
Yeah.
Bruh, this story is too unreal. Okay.
I hadn't let it go because it
so
was
you
still
just getting checks on checks on checks on checks.
Yeah, that part was nice. That part was nice. I won't lie to you. That part was nice. So I'm like, I'm just thinking about it, and I think after a couple of days, like maybe the third day, I woke up and I just had something that hit me, and I was like, you know what? I just need to bet on myself. Like, no matter what happens, I need to bet on myself and just believe that I'm about to do it. And, you know, if I do things the way that I need to do things, this is not going to be the last time that I have the opportunity to get $1 million. In fact, you know, $1 million is not going to be a big deal to me if I execute the way I need to execute, right? So I kind of had that moment, and I called him back up and I was like, listen, you know, I really appreciate everything, but this is what I'm going to do, just because I need to see where this is going to go for me. And he had to respect that. You know what I mean? And, you know, it's not something, it's really not something that I regret at all. You know, I was able to make plenty of money working on my own. And then just even more than that, just what it did, just having to, I guess, face myself and have that confidence did something for me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man.
And I sorry to cut you off there. I always knew that no matter what happens, like, I'm going to be able to tell people that I walked away from that. And, you know, that it just seemed cool to me. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah, that's a good tagline right there. Like, and I love it because in this podcast, this interview in general, this is not, all these are not fluff tagline. Like, you could tell by the details you're going into and in these stories and kind of what you do. This is not, because you see all online these stories of people that did X, Y, and Z, but you look at the details, it's like, that doesn't even match up. Like, so before, so,
like
so
the
after,
Brian Lochte story.
yeah, like it doesn't even add up. Like, and this, especially in this space with the influencers, bloggers, whatever. And then you meet people that really are doing it because, you know, after you kind of transition, you're still succeeding. And even before that, so that's neither here nor there. And so let's transition a little bit. Let's transition to, how'd you even become a writer for Huffington Post? Like, where did that come from?
Yeah. Okay. So after I sold the app company.
So you ended up selling it?
Yeah, I did end up selling it. I ended up selling it. That was like more than, so that initial offer happened around the turn of 2013. I ended up selling it 2 years later, right? So after I've been doing it for a while, and as I mentioned, I just started to realize that I wasn't going to be able to get to another level doing what I was doing, and I just needed to do something different. Ended up getting the offer, numbers were kind of right, so you know, it was time to go. So after I sold it, you know, took a little bit of time off to think. And I was just trying to figure out what's next. And I knew that, so the reason why I loved doing what I was doing before with the apps is because it gave me freedom, you know, freedom of time, freedom of movement, and just doing my own thing type of thing. But what I didn't get from it was like value. It wasn't contributing value to society. It wasn't doing anything for anybody else, really. You know what I mean? I was just making money from ads. So I was like, what can I do that is going to, like, how can I create something that's going to be not only profitable, but also valuable and around for a long time? So I eventually came to the idea, this took a while, that I wanted to create something there was going to I want to create like a community and a resource that's going to help people to learn about entrepreneurship, to motivate them to believe that they could do more things by exposing them to different, kind of like how you expose people to different stories. And yeah, just provide that whole type of vibe of education and motivation and that type of deal, right? And then just figure out different ways to monetize that, right? Mm-hmm. So started building this community. I have this Facebook group for entrepreneurs, aspiring entrepreneurs. Came up with the idea for a podcast, and then I've just been trying to build different parts of the community to all tie in together. And so part of that was, hey, I want to start blogging, and I don't want to just do that on my blog. I also want to take advantage of some of these popular blogs with more traffic and more prestige to get my stuff out there. And so one day I was listening to a podcast. I don't remember which one, but I heard this guy talking about how he was able to get on the Huffington Post and into some other publications. And it's funny because he literally just sent an email to Ariana Huffington, mm-hmm. right? He just looked up her email, sent her an email, and was like, hey, here's why I would be good for the Huffington Post. I have dope content, right? Mm-hmm. So I was like, okay, let me try that. And I did exactly that, and I got the same result. And it's funny because since then, there have been a number of people who've asked me, they'll see on LinkedIn or whatever.
So you just email Ariana Huffington?
Yeah, I emailed Ariana. Like her email is it's not hard to find. You Google it, you find it. It's like right there. So I just emailed her, gave her like a sample of the stuff that I'd written, and then talked about some of the results that I've seen. Just try to put my best foot forward, make it really concise. I'm like, okay, this is like a 9-figure CEO, right? Mm-hmm. Right? She probably doesn't have a lot of time. So let me just make it real short, get to the point, and show her, their whole deal, HuffPo and people like HuffPo, is they need good content, mm-hmm. right? They have the name, but they need content, and as much of it as possible. So if you can convince them that you have content that's compelling, that's going to bring people to their site, then sure, they'll give you a spot because they just want more content. So that's the pitch I made. And like she got back to me in a couple of days. They probably have somebody else managing that whole email situation. And I think they send out an automated response. I realized this after the fact. After, I had a couple of friends, they tried the same thing and got the same response.
You like, everybody write about the post now.
So it's like, it's attainable. It's like, you just have to reach out and try. Mm-hmm. And I think it's a good lesson there too, that, sometimes you should just try things, because there's not that the downside there is, I don't know, I'd be sad because she didn't answer my email. And the upside is exactly what happened. Like I got a spot in the Huffington Post, and then, you can leverage that spot into some other, it's been a great networking tool as far as just being able to talk to people that I want to talk to. And so yeah, I'll definitely encourage for anybody out there, don't ever think that somebody is above you or won't talk to you. They might not. They might not respond. They might not have time or whatever, but there's no harm in just trying.
Yeah, that makes me feel bad because I don't be responding to some emails, and I got Ariana Huffington responding to emails. It's like, great.
She probably has more help than you do.
Yeah, a lot more help. I don't think she was like, I don't think she went through your page, looked at some interviews online, did some research, like, I think you would be great. But that's cool. That's cool, man. And briefly, can you talk about your 10X rule for reaching out to influencers?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because I saw that mentioned on one of your interviews. I was like, what is that? That sounds something that our audience can benefit from.
So I read this book. I wouldn't call it my 10X rule. There's a book called The 10X Rule by author Grant Cardone.
Oh, okay. Grant Cardone. Yeah, he's Grant Cardone. Yep.
Yeah, he's a beast as far as entrepreneur. I don't agree with everything.
Yeah, I don't agree with it.
But I think that I listen to him because he provides a lot of inspiration for entrepreneurs, and Like I can always turn on his show and just get in the zone and get hype. And his book is like, I read the first chapter of it and I was just ready to go through a wall to be successful. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, his whole thing, I mean, there's a lot to the 10X rule. Like the first part of it is that you want to set your goals 10 times as high as you think you should, and then put in 10 times as much effort as you normally would, right? So to really ground that and make it concrete, that's like if you're a salesperson and you think that it's going to take you 3 sales calls to land the deal, right? Based on averages, then you want to go out there and like make 30, 40 calls, right? To make sure that you're not just competing, but you're going to like dominate everybody, right? So that just having that kind of attitude has helped me a lot. And then in terms of reaching out to people and having fear. So the whole thing about fear is that you got to realize that it's an indicator that you're doing something that's uncomfortable and doing something, just uncomfortable outside of your comfort zone. And a lot of times those things are good. Not all fear is good. Some fears you should pay attention to, should go away from. But, a lot of times if you just sit down and evaluate it, you're just uncertain because it's something somewhere you haven't gone before. And, you're afraid of rejection or something like that. So when it's that, like based on what the book told me and what I think is true now, you should take that as an indicator to just move forward towards it. So what'll happen with me is, I think about reaching out to somebody. Maybe it'll be Gary Vee, maybe it'll be, Eric Thomas or Mark Zuckerberg, I don't know, whoever. And then I'll have a pang of thought, just like, hey, are they going to get back to me? Who am I to do it? And that's when I know I have to do it. And then the second part of that, with fear, it's like you want to cut time out of the equation is something that he says in the book. So you just want to move into action as quickly as possible, because all that time does is going to make you hesitate and just think things over and possibly backtrack. So you just want to go from having that thought like, hey, this might be a good idea to doing it as quickly as possible. And yeah, if you just repeat that over and over with people that you want to meet, like who are big in your field, your profession, or who you look up to, you want them to mentor, like, of course you're gonna get some no's, you're gonna get a lot of no responses, but you're gonna get more yeses than you would not trying.
Yeah, that's a rule for anybody in any profession or anything. And I like the way you broke that down. Matter of fact, I got to re-listen to that part on this podcast, because I think sometimes I shoot a lot of J's. Some days I'm Steph Curry with the rock. Some days I'm just LeBron with it. I don't want to shoot a three. I want to just do layups. I just want to get to the free throw line. So I think
my thing though is like, even if you can't be Curry, because like Curry, he's pulling up, but he's hitting like 45% of his threes, right? But like I'm like, just be Iverson, man. Like value, just keep Iverson ain't gonna stop shooting just because, or Kobe.
Like
Kobe, you won't see Kobe go 1 for 6, right? You might see him go two for 25, or 6 for 27, right? But he's not going to stop shooting, and I think that's how you have to be. Like you still have to retain that tenacity, even if things aren't going for you the right way. I have a friend of mine, so he also has been in the ad business. He kind of like followed me into the ad business, and he sold his company a little while ago, and he moved into the next thing. So he's building another company, but in the process of building this company, he's had to do a lot of sales work, and he's doing business to business stuff. So it's like a longer sales cycle, a lot of talking to people, a lot of people saying no, a lot of like people saying maybe, a lot of getting strung along. And he's just had to do this day after day after day. I think just today he got his first person who was like, they want to sign up 2 of their corporate centers onto his plan. They want to pay $10,000 per employee, per their employees to his company, something like that. I don't know. But anyway, it was a big breakthrough. But in order for him to get there, he just had to keep on like shooting. Like he got shot down a lot of times. So yeah,
that's this is progress, encouraging. Encouraging. This has been phenomenal thus far, man.
Oh, thank you, man.
It really has been, dog. And question 2, and I want you to share about Daily Spark podcast. Real briefly. why you even got in that space, and more about that platform.
Oh, absolutely, man. So I think what I'm trying to do is very much similar to what you're trying to accomplish here, man. I want people to. All right. Well, let me backtrack a little bit. I feel like I've been fortunate over the last few years, and I've just gotten to do some amazing things. Like I have a lot of control over what I do every day, and like I just feel blessed in that respect. And it's like I want to share that feeling, and I want people to know that it's possible. Anything that you want to do is possible. Not easy, but it's possible. It's attainable. And so I'm trying to uncover different examples of people who are living that and doing things that are inspiring, building companies, building nonprofits, and just like really going into their stories, their strategies, showing exactly how they accomplished it, showing where they came from, what they were doing before they were this big deal person, and then just trying to give you a taste of how you might be able to accomplish something like that too, and what it actually takes. So that's really,
in a nutshell, what it is, right?
Yeah, that's really my perspective on it, and I'm just trying to really spread that as far and as wide as I can. And I think it's important for people in communities like ours to know that, you know what I mean? Just a lot of the work that I've done. I think it's important for people to see people like you and I, right? Faces like you and I. We're young Black men, right? And if you look at the space like technology, you don't see a lot of young Black people in technology, and I don't think that should be as entrepreneurs. They're definitely more, but I think there could be more than there are, and I want people to consider that and not think that it's beyond them. And when it comes to like stuff like mobile, you'll see us as heavy consumers. We'll be the biggest consumers out there, on top of every app and everything. But like I want to say, hey, we can also be on the producer side and be part of the people making the wealth, right? So these are all kind of the things that drive me. I think it's important. I think it's important for our community, even for people. My show is not only for Black people or anything like that. I talk to everybody, but that's something that's near and dear to me. You know what I mean?
That's great, man. And last question before we go to a future round and a rapid change round, man, is what is a day like for you though, man? Because I feel like you're involved in a lot. You're managing. So do you manage the Facebook community all by yourself?
So I have some folks that help me out as ambassadors.
How long have you been doing the Facebook community group?
I started growing that, I believe, towards the end of February. Right? It's now, I think we just hit like 1,200 members.
And they're engaged members?
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So it's nice.
I just joined, man. Make sure they add me, dog.
Oh yeah, I'll add you right now. So it's cool because like people will ask questions and other people will give detailed answers to them based on their experience. But it's something that's been working well, but you always want to take it to the next level. So I'm always thinking about like, how can I just make it a better? I was thinking about this just earlier today. Like, can I come up with some type of challenge that's going to make more people engaged, and like, what do people really need from this community and stuff like that? But yeah, it's compared to, I've been in a lot of different Facebook groups. There's some Facebook groups where you'll never see anything but a promotion. But like you'll see stuff in Daily Spark every single day of people just asking questions and interacting. So it's been pretty cool. And the part I actually love about it most is that I'll get messages, like people will hit me up sometimes and just be like, yo, this thing is changing my life. Or like, somebody told me that she was just getting ready to quit on the entrepreneurship thing. And like Daily Spark came along and changed that for her. And I'm like, man, and I got that feedback from this other guy who I go into Princeton with. And we weren't like really friends. We were acquaintances. But like we reconnected on Facebook, and he was like, it just helped to show him that there were other people out there who thought like him and who wanted to hustle and create something. And so like me hearing stuff like that is amazing. And like people will give me we have an Instagram page as well. And sometimes I just get in the zone of just growing it, right? It's like an inspirational thing. I'll just put out different messages that I curate from other pages or stuff that we create about entrepreneurship, about, getting past failure, doing lifelong learning, just getting that kind of message out. And I'll just get into the whole zone of growing the page and the mechanics and like, what numbers are we doing? And I'll forget that it means something to people.
Yeah.
So people will hit me up like, yo, your page is the best page, man. Like your page keeps me going. Like, hey, I just decided, I was talking yesterday, this kid sent me a business plan, 15-year-old kid. Like he was like, can you look at my business plan? I was like, yeah, young man, I can look at your business plan. So I looked at it, gave him a real couple quick tips, gave him some books to read and everything. And like, I love that stuff, man. That's better than anything in the world to me.
Man, that's fantastic, man. And as we transition, and as we transition to the future, man, what's next for you in 2017, dog?
2017. So I mean, I'm still all about the Daily Spark. Like trying to grow that, grow the podcast, grow the community. Eventually, my vision for that is to really make it into a network for entrepreneurship. Like, just think about
kind of like a growth, like a startup grind and all those other.
Yeah. Along those lines, just something very. So if you're thinking about entrepreneurship, bootstrapping companies, motivation, success, then Daily Spark should be part of the conversation. So I want to continue to grow it. I want to get in front of a million people. So, got a lot of work to do there, but definitely hustling on it. Then, continuing in the app game, continue to form partnerships. Right now, I'm working on some really big partnerships with some emoji apps that I actually need to try to close some of these deals. But that's a lane I really like right now. I got into that because I just saw what was going on with like Kim Kardashian had an emoji app, then Steph Curry came out with one during the finals, and so Justin Bieber and Rick Ross and Amber. So I was like, all right, there's something going on here. And I knew that it's something that I could do at a high level with the team that I have. So we started doing that, and I'm just pursuing different relationships to build that into, another company.
Man, that's huge. So how do you balance like the building of Daily Spark Media? Do you like have a certain times during the day where you do Daily Spark stuff and then other time you do business stuff, or do you structure it that way? You just go ahead and just have your to-do list and go get it?
So what I do, I like to structure it. Like I'll make plans for the long term. So I'll know what I want to achieve. What I want to achieve long term, what I want to achieve in 5 years, this year, 90 days, 1 month, this week, today. But then on a daily basis, I'll have the tasks in front of me, and I'll try to identify, the task for both initiatives and also anything going on that's outside of that. Then just try to figure out, okay, what's the one thing that I need to work on today that's going to give me the most mileage and make everything else easier, right? And then focus on that.
So say with Daily, say for example, say Daily Spark, would it be this one day I want to implement strategies on just growing the Instagram, I want to set everything up for a week? Or would it be like Instagram, then I'm look at the Facebook community, then I'm gonna look at this, then I'm look at that? It's just usually just one thing.
So it's really going to be one thing. I can have a lot of different things written out, and I normally will. I have different things on the list, but I know that if I kill this one thing today, right? If I for example, maybe it's I need to structure a course that I'm working on. If I knock out structuring that course, then I've had a successful day. Doesn't mean necessarily that I'm going to kick my feet up and stop working. That's not usually the way it goes, but I can at least feel good about today and know that I did what I set out to do. And, sometimes if I'm feeling like I need to have that rest or I need to like recharge, maybe I will slow down. Right.
But luckily due to much success, you've afforded yourself through that luxury through hard work. But I mean, I feel like, so it's not as I'm a grind, even when I'm like done. Because I know sometimes you have to be like, you check out mentally a little bit, right?
Yeah. So like most of the time I feel like, I think it's because I really enjoy, like I'm really believing in what I'm doing, and I really enjoy what I'm doing. And also I just really want to be successful at it. So it's not hard for me to continue just going on and on. But then, yeah, like you said, at the same time, no matter who you are and no matter how much you love it, you're just going to hit that wall sometimes, right? Where you just don't have any more to give. And at that point, it's important to just back off and let yourself recover, recharge your batteries so that you have something to give to people and so that you don't die.
Yep, set straight like that, man. That's phenomenal, man. And last question on the future round. When it's all said and done, though, how do you want to be remembered?
Yeah, okay. Now that's a great question. So I really think I want people to just to look at me as somebody that's had a lot of impact on a lot of other people and just helped a lot of other people to succeed. Like ultimately, that's what I want. I want to be able to help. Obviously, my family. You know, I don't want my family to have to go without anything. I want to be able to help the communities that I'm a part of. I want to be able to make an impact on this country. I want to be able to make an impact on, you know, my other country, Nigeria. I just want to have as much impact in the world as I possibly can. And just looking at, you know, I just believe that because there are other people out there that have had massive impact and they're just people just like me, just like you, it means that, you know, we can do it too. So I want to be able to have that same level of impact in terms of just helping people as much as I can. You know what I mean? I think that's really it. If people say that about me when I'm gone, I'll be really happy.
Man, that's it right there, man. And
that's it, man.
The culture change round, I do like I always do, kind of like Johnny Lee Dumas. I love doing it. It's just the rapid fire. We get it in, and then we end it with a bang, man. So to get it started, what's the best piece of advice you ever received?
Best piece of advice, man. I would say it's just on persistence, man. Just like, I don't even know who gave it to me because I've heard it so many times now. But whether it's in entrepreneurship or in life, you got to be persistent and just keep on going. And if you don't give up, there's no way you can lose. Like, there's no way you can lose.
I love that, right? If you don't give up, there's no way to lose. It's just really that cut simple, right?
You're going to win. It's just a matter of when you're going to win. But when you lose is when you quit because you're not trying anymore. But like, if I'm telling you that I'm going to get there and I'm not going to stop until I get there, like, how are you going to beat me? Yeah. It's not possible.
It's crazy you say that real quick before I ask the next question because Awesome Lovey. Anybody follow Awesome Lovey?
Yeah. Oh, my fiance she interviewed her last night.
I know, freaking phenomenal. Like I listened to her talk with. If it's anything as good as the one with her Molly Tills, I was just dying and laughing because she's freaking hilarious. But main thing I got from all her stuff is she was like, "Yo, the reason why now I'm blowing up on this blog, she only like 31, 32, is because I'm still here. Like I've been at it 13 years, and all the other bloggers they shut down their blogs, they stopped. I just kept going." Yeah. And that's really it.
Yeah. You know, you mentioned John Lee Dumas. He talks about the same thing. He said, he was saying that, I met him. He had an event that I went to out in California once. And he mentioned that the average podcast lasts 7 episodes, right? And then they fade. Mm-hmm. And for him, he just kept on going, right? And he'll admit that he sucked in the beginning. You know, he didn't know how to interview. He wasn't confident, but he just kept on doing it. And now he's one of the best in his craft. So I believe what you're saying is exactly right, man.
Yeah, man. So what is your biggest fear?
Biggest fear, man. Not reaching my potential, you know? I mean, I guess other than, biggest fear would be like if stuff would happen to the people that I love, but you know, in terms of like on a personal level, it'd probably just be not reaching my potential because I know that if I don't, it's gonna be my fault. It would have been because like I just didn't put the work in and I wasn't focused and determined enough. So that'd be a shame.
Yeah, man. And what is your favorite book and why?
Favorite book. So I already talked about the 10X rule, so I won't talk about that one right now. But it's up there for me. I have a lot of favorite books. I just read Think and Grow Rich and 7 Habits like last couple of weeks. Mm-hmm. Those are up there for me as well. I'm gonna say though, I'm gonna say The Slight Edge. And The Slight Edge by Jeff Olson. And this is a book that talks about how the small choices that you make every day add up to either success or failure. Mm-hmm. And it's really such a simple concept, but it's so, so powerful. And I was fortunate enough to read that book right after I gone through an experience where I lost about like 40, 50 pounds, right? Mm-hmm. And just got in much better shape. And like, so I gone through that experience and I read The Slight Edge, and in my mind, I'm like, okay, this makes a lot of sense. When I was working out, I had to, there's certain choices I had to make every day. I had to choose am I going to eat like a hamburger, or am I going to eat this like chicken and veggies, right? And just, you can mess up on one day. It doesn't really matter. But if you start doing it 4 or 5 days in a row, it adds up. Or if you do the right thing one day, if I eat one piece of broccoli today, that that's cool, but it's not going to make me rip, right? Mm-hmm. But if I'm eating the right stuff for a month, it makes a difference. And then 2 months, and then 6 months, right? These things start to compound. So the book is really all about that. But then I noticed that, okay, this really makes sense because of what I went through fitness, but maybe it also applies to educating myself. So maybe I should be, that really got me back into the habit of I need to be reading every day, right? Because if I can get that mental 6-pack too, right? I have the physical one, also do the same thing for my mind. Okay, like what can I do to work on my personal relationships every day, right? What can I do to work on my income? Like how do I create that type of consistency? So I started that book really kind of just changed the way I practice my life, because it made me see how important it is to just be consistent, even if it's just in doing small actions, but like checking that box every day,
Man, that's huge, man. That's huge. That's huge.
Slight Edge. Check that out, man.
What would you say, especially and put this in a digital, the app lens, your top two resource and websites that you use in that space starting out?
Yeah. Oh, hold up. Matter of fact, so one thing, I want to take it back to the last question, just because I want to share something with your audience real quick.
Yeah.
So when I went through that whole process with The Slight Edge, I created this. I didn't want to lose the lessons from the book, because I was like, man, when you read something that just, you're like, man, this is some life-changing stuff. So I'm like, I don't want to just move on to the next thing and have this just pass out and be information. Mm-hmm. So I created this chart that would just show me, okay, these are the 7 categories from The Slight Edge. And, for each one, you're supposed to have a goal, a plan to start, and what do you call it? A goal, plan to start, and a daily discipline. So I created that chart so I could put it up in visible sight and look at it every day and practice it. So that's something I would love to share with your audience. Maybe I could put it up. I don't know how. So what I'll do, I'll create something. Let's call it dailyspark.co/MTP.
Yeah,
MTP. That's what we'll do. And so I'll give them that resource up there.
Resources or websites you use.
Okay, yeah.
Starting out.
So I think one that I go to just over and over all the time is Odesk. Mm-hmm. And it's just because you can just hire so much talent on there. I mean, of course, you do have to do your due diligence, and there's a lot of disparity between the people who are really good and the people who aren't. But yeah, I think it's an excellent resource. Let me see what else. What do I use oftentimes? So I like different project management tools, and the one that I use the most often is Asana. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I think there are a lot of them out there that are all good, but Asana's cool. It's free. It just lets you keep your tasks straight. I actually haven't been on it as much recently, but that's something that I have in mind. I want to get all of my projects back in there because I started managing some projects via email, and it just gets very messy.
It gets crazy, right?
Yeah, you don't know where anything is at, and you just waste twice the amount of time that you could be using to execute just trying to search through Gmail. So Asana's dope for that.
Man, that's phenomenal. That's phenomenal, man. And last question of that round is if you were the president of the United States, what would you do?
Wow.
What's the first thing you would do?
Sure, man. I would tell these people like, back up off me. No, man, that's such a tough role. There's so much going on as president that, you know, some of it that we're privy to and some that we're not. Like, what would I want to do? So it's tough because, like, I feel like, you know, I feel like there's so much that we want to accomplish, and, you know, we'll look at the president and say, hey, you're not doing a good job on that. But I think there's just so much going on. But that aside, you know, I would like to improve things in urban communities as far as education and providing resources, and, you know, see if we can maybe spend a little bit less on the war and spend a little bit more on education. But like I said, it's complex issues, right? I don't want to be overly idealistic or anything like that.
Nah, I feel you, man. So that wraps it up, man. And I know at the end of every episode, I do ask this one, because I call myself the culture change agent.
Yeah.
And we asked the question, if you could change one thing about society, most specifically our African American culture, what would it be and why?
Change African American culture. Yeah, okay.
Like, what would if you could do one tweak, what would you change?
So, I mean, I would like to make, I would just like to make it really cool I'd like to make educating yourself like cool, just as cool as sneakers are, right? You know what I mean? Like educating yourself and developing yourself personally, just make that a really cool thing for people to do. Because I think it is really cool. I think it's really powerful. And I noticed that out of the most successful people that I meet and I run into, they all do it. They all just read so many books, and, you know, they work on doing something for their fitness, and they're always just learning something new. So I would really want that to be something that everybody is embracing on the whole, you know, from the time that we're kids, and we just know that it's the cool thing to do. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Man, that's phenomenal, man. Like, what I say is and I don't say this all the time. I don't think I've ever said it on the show, but man, this has definitely been one of the more encouraging, actionable and journey of an episode. It's kind of like, and I've always wanted to do one of these because I don't know if you're familiar with the podcast, the podcast by, Barry Katz, Industry Standard by Barry Katz.
Nah, maybe I should check it out.
The one thing about it, I think we talked about earlier, the thing about this podcast is a long form. Like, it can go anywhere from an hour to 2.5, but it has people that are like titans in the entertainment industry, that are like executives, and all these people that know what they're talking about, have crazy long stories and stuff like that, so that your audience can really be engaged. And I think this episode, even though it is the longest one in Minority Trailblazer history, but it was a journey. Like, the whole thing is just a unique journey that I guarantee, I know my listeners are definitely going to learn something from, because you just can't make this stuff up. And it's definitely encouraging to see somebody of the same ilk, of course, that you're outrageously smart, but to see somebody just continue to work hard, get those rejections, and just freaking kill the space, and then not get chill. Not just like, okay, cool. You could have probably, I don't know how much money did you sort of second company more, but you could probably be a little less happy to start brand new on the podcast, start this community online and whatnot, but you're still every day continuing to learn more, grow more. And a side note, I'm disappointed that we didn't even get a chance to even talk about how you even met your wife, but that's here another day. That would take this podcast a lot longer, but you have an amazing wife, a fiance that is doing phenomenal things herself, man. So wow, man.
Shout out to Nikki. Shout out to Side Hustle Pro. I heard she's gonna come on the show soon too.
Yeah, I got to. Like I said, I just lucked up meeting y'all in the right spaces. I definitely got to, man. So for our audience that wants to hear more about a journey, maybe want to reach out, ask questions, or just find out how they can be more involved in your community, where can they find you at? Where can they reach you at? What's all your info?
Oh, absolutely. So the podcast can be found at dailyspark.co/podcast, or if you're on Android, then dailyspark.co/Stitcher. And the community is at dailyspark.co/community. I think those are some good links. If you want to find us on any of the social media channels, the handle on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, it's all Daily Spark TV.
Love that, man. So, Minority Trailblazing Nation, you have just tuned into one of the most, like I called it at the beginning. I knew the interview was in the air.
I had fun, man. I had fun.
One of the most epic, one of the more funniest podcasts, but it was epic. It was very detail oriented, and we just went through a story of a young man from straight out of Nigeria that is really is hopefully, and I think definitely going to be one of the future tech titans of the
thank you, man,
of the U.S. man. So we got it here first before, because a lot of people already know, but before the world gets out to that, man. So I like to thank you for your time.
Yo, thank you, man. This has been wonderful. I definitely got to come back on the show sometime. And we definitely got to have you on my podcast as well.
Wow. We have just wrapped up the longest episode in Minority Trailblazer history. Thank y'all so much for tuning in all the way through. If you haven't already, please stop what you're doing right now. Leave a review online. It's easy. It takes a couple minutes. And share the podcast with a friend if you think they can benefit. This has been a phenomenal experience. A lot of the notes will be in the show notes on my website. And thank you, each and every person, for listening all the way through, for your support of the podcast, for you supporting me. And if you ever want to reach out, have any questions for me, you can reach me at Twitter at Greggy Hill, Instagram at Greggy Hill, and let's continue the dialogue and conversation. I just want y'all to know that over the next couple of months, we will be rolling out a Facebook group. We will be rolling out a website. We'll be rolling out a lot of great things that hopefully can encourage and empower you to be the minority trailblazer you can be, and get extra content and get inside scoop on people that were having on the show, Q&As, all that good stuff. I really want to take this podcast to the next level, and I'm glad that you're going to be here with me. All right. Thank y'all for your continued support. My face is almost 100% Hill, and let's continue to do one thing. What is that one thing, Mr. Hill? That one thing is to change the culture. Have a good night.